Okay. 4 years ago today, a man predicted that the rand would be 60 rand to the US dollar in 2019. He was wrong. His name was Chris Hart. He masqueraded as an economist for big banks, and he did not even have anything more than a matric. Chris Hart is Temba today. Good evening and welcome to Talk with Rams Live. Thank you for choosing to join us. We are live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube as Talk with Rams. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on the other channels. Uzanzele Holdings is a sister-founded and owned managed niche consulting firm with over 60 years of combined experience in business development, capital raising, and accessing government funding, saving you time that you should spend running your own business. Now, one of the directors and founders of Uzanzele is our own resident funding coach, Zahra Rawjee, and she joins me tonight to help us understand two funding instruments available in the market, but in my view, so underutilized. Hello, Zahra, and good evening to you.
Evening, Rams. Good to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Good to see you. Good to see you. You look like you have a professional studio at home. That looks beautiful in the background.
Thank you. It's my office. I'm fortunate to have a home office. So even in lockdown, I get to go to work every day. So that's been a saving grace for us, I must say. Even though the staff is all working remotely, we've been very fortunate to be able to come into the office and work.
So tonight we're going to talk about invoice discounting as well as government, what is the other one? And contract finance. But let's start with invoice discounting. What is that? In layman's terms, in the language that Chris Hart would understand.
So invoice discounting, and this is something that a lot of businesses don't know about. Invoice discounting is a facility that is offered either by your bank or by another funding institution to you, whereby they assist you to fund your invoices. It's known as invoice discounting or as factoring, invoice factoring. Yeah. Essentially, what it comes down to is that this funder will pay you for your invoices before you've been paid by your client. That's really what it comes down to in a nutshell. So if we break it down a little bit more, you supply goods and services. So this is primarily for companies that supply goods and services, not so much available to those organizations that this is for companies that supply goods and physical products, not so much for companies that supply services. And services include things like repairs and maintenance, etc. Right? So if you're talking about a physical good, you sell a physical good, you trade a physical good, you might be manufacturing it and selling it, or you might be buying and selling. A lot of the times what happens is you are selling that good to a client with whom you've got payment terms, 30, 60, 90, 120 days, right? Yeah. So you're waiting, you've sold the good, you've bought the good, you've sold the good, you have to pay your client, you have to pay your suppliers. Sorry, I'm having one of those days, Rams. I apologize.
We all have that day from time to time.
So you get your stock from your supplier and you have to supply it to your customer, right? You have to pay your supplier. Yeah. But your customer is only going to pay you days after you've paid your supplier. What do you do in that meantime? This creates a cash flow situation, a cash flow problem for your business. Invoice discounting or factoring, what that does is it creates the opportunity for you to resolve that cash flow crisis. Yeah. So it's short-term finance. It's not long-term finance. It finances your invoices on an ongoing basis. And typically what the finance institution does is it finances a portion of that invoice. What we generally tend to see in the market is about 70%. So 70% of the invoice value, you've bought your stock or you've manufactured your stock. Now you've delivered it to your client. So you have to also have delivered it. You've delivered it to your client. You've invoiced it. Now you've got to wait for your payment. The bank is saying, okay, we'll help you. We'll fund 70% of that invoice value. And because it's short-term finance, it does work out to be quite expensive. So this is a very, very important aspect of invoice discounting. Is that
it is expensive.
It's expensive. So what's important is to understand what are the terms with your bank. What are the terms of that interest that you're paying? Because you're paying that typically on a daily rate, on a daily basis. So what banks are saying is, you need me to fund you for a short period of time. I will do that. But because I'm not giving you long-term finance, I'm going to have to charge you on a short-term rate. So you're being charged either daily or weekly, maybe monthly, but it also comes down to your payment terms. So what's necessary is good margin. If you have a product that you are so tight on margin with, invoice discounting, factoring can be detrimental to your business. Because you receive money from the bank. And why do they only give you a portion of the money? Is because they want to make sure that you're still going to chase that debtor to get your money back, right? To get your payment. They give you a portion. Okay, we'll fund 70% of it. And when you receive the money, then we'll take our 70% as well as our interest, and you get the balance. So it's important to have enough margin in your product to be able to fund that interest portion.
I can imagine this instrument would come in very handy in this period, because there's a few hustlers out there now, bringing in sanitizers and PEPs. Are they called PEPs? Yeah, it's PEPs.
PPE.
I think I'm right.
Personal
and all of stuff.
Yeah.
All of this stuff that's responding to COVID. You got a big buyer, you can produce, you can get it to them, but you don't have enough cash flow to survive. So this comes in handy. And I also have seen, whether we like it or not, is that a lot of these hustlers who are out there have good margins on these PEPs.
Oh, yes. People are making very good margins on these PPE products. The difference is, and what needs to be remembered when it comes to invoice factoring, and this is not a solution to help you buy your stock. Factoring and invoice discounting is not for you to buy stock. It is for you to fund what you have already sold and delivered. So you have to provide to the bank your invoice as well as your delivery note. And you say to the bank, I'm now waiting 30, 60, 90, whatever days.
Yes.
My payment, please bridge me, essentially, until I get my payment. They'll probably insist that you set up a joint account in which those clients will pay, so that they know that they can
their money secure. Yes.
They can secure the amount they have financed, as well as the interest, and then the balance is yours. So this is very, very important. And you've raised a great question, Rams, because a lot of people may come out of this going, okay, great. So I need to go get invoice discounting to buy my stock. No, that's more contract finance or purchase order finance.
It's something completely different.
So these are two.
Okay, sorry, continue.
No, go ahead, please.
I was saying, before we go to contract financing, is invoice discounting an instrument only available from banks, or are there some kind of financiers out there who also consider it?
There are also alternative financiers that consider it, so non-transactional, non-retail banks. So you don't have to do it through your bank. You can do it through an alternative financier as well. And there are several out there that will do that for you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to also having good clients. So if they're going to look, a financier may very well say, they'll look at your entire book of clients and they'll go, you've got 10 clients there. They go, there are 5 that I'm comfortable to factor. There are 5 that I'm not. I will help you with factoring these clients of yours. The others, I will. So there's various aspects to this, and there's various intricacies to it. Another important, I think where this can help a lot of businesses, Rams, is that this is a great solution, and it's about being business-minded at this point in time to say, am I going to sacrifice my profit to be able to build my business? Invoice discounting is a great option for businesses that are sort of starting out or are really trying to get their foot in the door, and they've got healthy margins, but that cash flow is an issue. So it might be something that you don't have to, because you started it, it doesn't mean you have to keep doing it forever. And just because the bank says, I will factor, your invoices from, I don't know, Pick and Pay and from Bidvest and whoever is your clients, just because they say we will factor those doesn't mean you have to submit it for factoring. If you've got enough
Yeah.
cash flow and you don't want to go that route, you don't have to. It's a facility that you're essentially offered. But in the short,
my advice to a lot of small businesses is that the best thing is that you continue fighting for better payment.
Always.
Is from your clients.
Always, as much as possible, because even if you do have factoring in place, remember that you're being charged on a daily or weekly basis, which means that if you can reduce the time of your payments from your clients, you're obviously going to incur less interest.
On Facebook, we've got Nozuko Vicky Tagavula saying, hello guys, thank you. So Mukwabating says, hi Rems, I like the new page setup. Thank you very much for that. Blame it on Freddie. Thank you. So I didn't do the new page setup. He did that. I now have a technical producer. I feel so good. But you gotta love social media, because then Mulahwe Daisy Mudisa says, hi Rems, I want to talk to you. Come here, please. I don't know where to come, Mulahwe, and I'm not sure what you want to talk about.
You're not allowed to go anywhere anyways, Rams. We're in lockdown.
It's so difficult. It's gonna get me arrested. But stay with me. Don't leave, Daisy. I'll attend to you, but stay with me. This may help you. This conversation with Zahra may help you. So Zahra, contract finance, what is that?
So contract finance is, let's look at what you said earlier, Rams, is you've got an order. How do you get the stock to deliver on that order? And that's essentially what it is. You've got a contract or a purchase order or a tender, something like that, and you need to now deliver. Let's say you got from the Department of Health or from one of the hospitals now in the time of COVID, you get a contract, you get an order that says we want to buy 100 or 100,000 or 1 million or 10 million, whatever it is. We want to buy, masks from you. So you've got that order. What you need to be able to get the funds in order to buy the stock. And at the moment, the stock under normal circumstances doesn't cost very much. But at the moment, this is a seller's market when it comes to PPE, and the prices are crazy. So just to fund 100,000 masks, those normal 3-ply surgical masks that doctors wear in the operating room, to fund 100,000 of those might cost you 500,000, 600,000 rand, depending on how well you've bought from your supplier. Yes. So now you need to raise the funding so that you can secure the stock and you can deliver it to your clients. That's what contract finance is, exactly what it says. It finances your contract.
How does it then differ from invoice discounting?
What that does is it allows you to get the funding you need in order to secure your stock. Invoice discounting is for stock you've already delivered and an invoice you have already issued. Your client already has the stock. In contract finance, your client doesn't have the stock yet. You still need to go get it so that you can deliver it.
Yes.
But similarly to invoice discounting, it's very important to keep in mind what is your margin. Because similarly to invoice discounting, contract finance is also short-term finance. And if you do not cater for the cost of that finance, you might end up making very little money or making no money at all because of the interest. And this is something, pre-COVID, never mind COVID, this is something that a lot of businesses struggle with, and where a lot of problems come in is that a lot of businesses will essentially say that they'll speak to their supplier. Let's say they got a contract to supply the Department of Education with school books, right? So they'll go and they'll speak to the supplier of school books and they'll say, how much is a book? And the supplier will say it's 10 Rand a book. So they go and they put their margin of 2 Rand. Right? So they go in, or 5 Rand or whatever they put on, and they go and they tell the Department of Education, I will sell you a book at, 12 Rand or 15. Let's call it 12 Rand for argument's sake. So Department of Health, I will sell you the book for 12 Rand. Department of Health does all their things they have to do. They approve you. They issue you the tender. You need to now supply textbooks at 12 Rand a book. What these entrepreneurs are not considering is then they want to go to the bank and say, please help me, finance me to go buy these books. They're not considering what the cost of that finance might be. And the cost of that finance, while the suppliers charged you 10 Rand for the book, the financier might charge you another 3 Rand for the finance. Well, guess what? It cost you money. You didn't make money. So that's why a lot of the time, what happens is tenders get issued, and then the supplier that was awarded the tender or the contract cannot deliver because they simply cannot afford the finance to go and procure the stock.
Ouch, that's scary. Ouch. So could I have an idea of the cost of invoice discounting or contract finance even before I put a price on my product?
Absolutely. It's about engaging with financiers and saying, if this is the case, what I've got is I've got this contract, the payment term, the client is such and such, the payment terms are such and such, because typically in a tender document, it is disclosed what the payment terms would be. So if you can get that information, you speak to a financier and you say to them, these are the parameters, this is what the contract will look like. What can you offer me? That's where you've got your cost of finance.
Would contract finance cover services as opposed to invoice discounting, which also looks at products?
Tricky. Services are always tricky. And the problem with services and financing them is that unlike a product, a service, let's assume repairs and maintenance. Yeah, it's a great one because a lot of guys get these repair and maintenance contracts for like mines, or they might get these contracts for buildings, that sort of thing. So they go, I've got a contract to do repairs and maintenance on all the building works. Okay, but that contract may rely on essentially a certificate or a confirmation that the job was correctly done. And what if you don't get that? If you don't get that, you're not going to get paid. We refer to this situation of what financiers like to finance in contract finance as things that are buy and deliver. Something you can buy and you just deliver it.
Yes.
In contract finance, it's even tricky at times to get your products financed if you are the manufacturer of the product. So if I make the scarf and I sell it, it may be difficult to get a contract finance on that. But if I go and buy this product from another person that's made it and I just have to deliver it, different story.
I have always distinguished product and service in this fashion. I have always said product business is objective. Everybody knows it's a watch, it's a pen, it's a book, so you can't debate it. But service is subjective. I may think that I've given you a great service, you may think this is a shabby service, and it's a problem. And that's why I suspect the funding thereof becomes difficult, because what if my client says, no, Rams, your service was poor?
Exactly. And this is the risk financiers are not too happy to take. And that's why financing service businesses tends to be a lot more difficult.
A friend of mine who chooses to contact me on WhatsApp, I don't understand why he's not joining us on the platforms, says these two instruments sound like sophisticated loan shark businesses to me.
I mean, if that's what it sounds like, I suppose that's what it sounds like. It's not at all. These are financing solutions. They're offered by the banks. They're offered by alternative financiers. And if you look at the times of COVID right now, invoice discounting, no, but contract finance is being offered by the IDC for COVID supplies, as well as the NEF, right? So, and the relief, not the relief fund, but the growth fund, that first fund that was announced when we were going into lockdown, there was the relief fund and there was also the growth fund with the Department of Small Business Development. So that growth fund, the IDC COVID fund, the NEF, and then your commercial banks, your alternative financiers are all options for, especially at the moment, contract finance. Yes, it costs money, but you're asking someone to risk so that you can make your money as well. I mean, banks aren't here to serve us and not make money. They are they are for-profit entities. So they also have requirements. They see an opportunity.
I always say that you're asking somebody to put their money on your business and you wanting it to come cheap. I mean, they can't just risk on your money. You're going to make money. So in that case, you must expect.
Absolutely.
Let me welcome on Facebook, Bratiar Temba Edmund Mulefe says better late than never. Coach Fundi is also here. Cash flow is always a challenge for small businesses. Great to hear that there are alternatives. Edson Nimark says, hello guys, interesting Pesihle Mavaela says, hi, Zahra. Okay. Or she says, will you touch up on startup capital options available out there? That's great. You know what it's going to do with that? It means we can commit it to the next show. So we'll deal with startup finance for the next show. For tonight, we won't have a chance. It's a 30-minute production, and I still have a few more questions for her. On Instagram, Coach Tam is here joining us on Instagram. Finally, Instagram has started to tell people that we are live. We've been live for the last 20 minutes. They're only telling people now that we've gone live. But what can we do? And this, aren't they cousins, Facebook and Instagram?
They are
talking to each other, you know?
Yeah.
So,
they're probably social distancing, so they haven't had a chance to talk.
I didn't think that they were partners. I thought they were cousins, which would allow things to happen. But anyway, government guarantees. Could government guarantee loans that I get from a bank?
So let's touch on that a little bit. We heard about the government guarantee that was coming for funds, for businesses, sorry, and that's about 200 billion rand that's been put aside for government guarantee loans. That funding is for relief. It is not to fund your working capital from the perspective of, like, you know, that extra, and it's not to fund your contracts. It's not to fund. It's not for invoice discounting. It's not to achieve any of that. It's to fund your operating expenses, your working capital of your normal business activities. Things like salaries, which is great, rent, you know, if you've got things like hire purchase agreements in place for equipment, vehicles, that sort of thing. So those expenses that you have on a monthly basis, that's what it's there to fund. And so businesses mustn't get confused and think that this government guarantee has been put in place to help them with their growth in any way. It's another relief fund. I think the important thing as well is just to be aware that this is being administered by the banks. So essentially what this means is that the government has guaranteed these funds to the banks, but the banks are administering it. So a business needs to still be a business in good standing, extremely important. So at the end of the day, the principles still apply, as they always will, no matter what finance you're looking to raise. And this is why businesses then end up going to the likes of loan sharks, which is terrible, is because they don't have the fundamentals in place. So your business needs to be in good standing. You need to be registered and compliant with SARS. Yeah. You need to be in good standing with the bank prior to COVID. Very important. And then it's a relief fund. So you need to be impacted negatively by COVID. So if you are one of those businesses that happened to do really well and found an opportunity and was able to secure a great contract for PPE or hand sanitizer or whatever, and you've now got actually more cash flow than you've ever had before, please don't try and go and get a government guarantee from the bank, because they're going to tell you that no, I don't think you need this. Other businesses will require it. So those are the processes. You apply through your bank. You can only apply to one bank. Please don't apply to all wherever you've got an account, or even if you don't have an account, you must pick a bank, and you can only apply once. Very important. If it gets found out that you've applied to more than one bank, that loan will be payable and recalled immediately.
Wow.
Okay.
How do I apply though?
You start off by getting in touch with your bank. You reach out to them, they'll do an assessment, then it will go through the process of either being approved or denied, and then you go to signing agreements. They may require a cash flow projection from you. That's very important. So reach out to your financial advisor or your accountant or your financial director, whatever it is. Be able to put those financial projections together if they are asked for. And then you go, if it's approved and everything's above board, you go to contracting and signing the loan agreements, and then funds are ultimately dispersed to you on a monthly basis for 3 months.
On contract financing, Charles Muziwake Mahlangu asks, can they fund you 100% of the loan or of the required fund? Well, I suspect, let's say, if we understand contract financing the way you explained it to me, I've got this tender and it's worth 10 million rand. Ooh, good luck to me. Let me be realistic. 500,000 rand, and
10 million is also
and for me to service it, I probably need 400,000 rand. Could I get a 400,000 rand contract finance facility?
Yes. Yes. So once again, remember, the bank needs to mitigate, or bank or financier, whoever is coming with the funds, needs to mitigate their risks. So
yeah.
You've got your contract. They are going to verify who is your contract with. They are going to ensure that the person you've got a contract with is a good payer. So if your contract is with look, this tends to happen a lot with government contracts. There are certain government institutions, there are certain divisions, there are certain departments, there are certain municipalities that are notorious for being bad payers. The likelihood is, if that's who your contract is with, you're going to struggle to get contract finance because that's too risky. How long is the financier supposed to wait to get paid? And the longer it is, the more that interest accrues. So you're trying to obviously service a client and raise funding or finance for a client that you know is going to pay you within that time they've said. If they've said it's 2 weeks, they're going to pay you in 2 weeks. Because the minute, remember, you're calculating interest, you're calculating the cost of that finance based on that payment term. If you exceed that payment term, you start accruing more interest, and it grows and it grows. So the financier is going to look to see who is your client. If it's a good client, they will fund you. And of course, if it's a good client, if you've got enough margin to fund that finance cost, happy days. They'll fund 100% of the cost to procure your goods. No problem.
And it has to be the cost to procure. It can't be 100% including my profit.
The cost to procure. They're not here to fund your business. They're here to fund your contract. What do you need? So if the cost of the goods is 10 rand and you're selling it for 20 rand, they will fund you the 10 rand.
Yes.
And then when the 20 rand gets paid, it gets paid to a joint account. They will insist on that. It gets paid to a joint account. They take their 10 rand that they fronted you. They take their interest.
The 3 rand.
Yours.
Yeah. Excellent. There's an instrument I want to talk about. We can't talk about it tonight. It was controversial many years ago. Vendor finance. I don't know if it's still favorable. I don't know if it's still existent. But I tend to believe that if it's still existent, it's something that people could consider with good clients who are willing to fund them to service them, to buy from them. But I want to explain, I want to talk about it in detail next time we talk, because it's another instrument that is out there. And of course, because it's an instrument that's different, I'm sure it also costs a little bit more than other instruments, but vendor finance is of interest to me.
Absolutely. We can always discuss that, Brams. I'm here to help and share information that I have. I hope it does help your viewers and that they understand. That's what we want. We want more businesses to understand what financing options are out there for them, how they work, what they need to be aware of, so that when they go ahead and ask for this funding, and when they go ahead and sell products and establish their businesses, they're aware of these additional costs that will be a reality for them if they want to get someone to assist them with finance.
Trust me, if I can understand it, this smart Alex will understand. They're much smarter than me, these people who view the show. I'm just a blabbermouth who can only broadcast. But in the event you can't understand it, guys, there is Uzenzele Holdings. This is exactly why they exist. They can help you with understanding these things and also packaging your business plans and helping you to go raise funds out there. That's their specialty. That is why I would keep Zahra here. It's for no other reason. I know you suspect there are other reasons. I keep her here because she's an expert in this game. So please find them. Where do they find you, Zahra?
They can find us, and as I always say, I suggest please go via our website, www.uzenzele.com. And there's a form, there's a lot of information about the types of funding that we can assist with. We do have minimum thresholds of values of funding that we can assist businesses raise. And that's typically from 5 million Rand up. But there's a lot of information there. Start off by filling the inquiry form that you can find on almost every page of our website. That will get them through the process. Initial evaluation is done to see whether or not we can help them. If we can't, we do our best to guide them to someone who would be able to help them. And if we can help them, then we start a discussion with them to understand a little bit better what their needs are and how do we take it forward.
Super, because guys, 25 to 30 minutes of chat with Zahra can only be called, well, let's call it business foreplay. The real stuff will happen when you deal with her directly. I can't do that here. So please make contact with Zenzele. I promise you, I can give you a million examples of people who have found help with them and they have done well. Some of them have been on this show. So they got scars to show for what they do. Thank you very much, Zahra, and have a great evening. Always wonderful chatting to you.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Rams. Have a great evening and a great evening to all the viewers as well.
Thank you so much. So tomorrow evening, Dr. T is back and he's going to talk about how culture messes up your business or could mess up your business or your personal development, because we hang on to this thing called culture and we ignore the rules of the game somewhere. You gotta join us tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. with Dr. Tando Sibanda. We are always on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and YouTube. Subscribe to the page, Talk with Rams. Thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you for sharing with those who are joining us for the first time. And I will make contact with Daisy, who's wanting me to be somewhere else tonight and not here at home. And to Frederick Mabizela, who's running the show from the background, thank you very much, mate. From me, Rams Mabote, good night and God bless.